It has been a whirlwind 18 hours in Wisconsin as voters choose Tony Evers to be the state's next governor.
This is News 3 at 6.
Tony Evers is preparing a transition team to become Wisconsin's next governor. It's been a whirlwind-packed 24 hours in Wisconsin, with voters selecting a new governor and attorney general.
The Associated Press declared Tony Evers the winner in the governor's race about 1:30 this morning. Governor Scott Walker conceded defeat earlier this afternoon after an extremely close race. Based on unofficial results, Evers won by roughly 31,000 votes.
We have team coverage of how campaign 2018 played out. News 3 chief political reporter Jessica Arp talked with members of Walker's campaign today and has the behind the scenes of his concession.
And we start, though, with Rose Schmidt, who asked the governor-elect about his plans for the future. Rose?
That's right. Governor-elect Tony Evers will be sworn in 2 months from today, but a lot needs to happen between now and then. Developing a transition team, creating a new administration, and trying to follow through on campaign promises.
I'm proud and humbled to stand here as the next governor of the state of Wisconsin.
Governor-elect Tony Evers is preparing a new transition team after narrowly defeating incumbent Governor Scott Walker.
Just a little bit ago, he said that he conceded the race and was very gracious and talked about the transition and how his staff will be available for our staff to create the new government.
But Evers will likely not have an easy road ahead of him. He will soon be a Democratic governor in a state with 2 Republican houses, led by Senator Scott Fitzgerald and Assembly Speaker Robin Vos.
I would really like to talk to him about how we can kind of set the stage going forward so that we can find common ground on those important issues.
Speaker Vos congratulated Evers Wednesday, but wants him to know his win will not be seen as a, quote, mandate for change, and Republican lawmakers will continue their conservative promises. In the coming weeks, Evers will begin looking for new leadership in state roles.
I'm also looking to staff the Evers administration with some really significantly talented people representing the diversity that the state of Wisconsin has.
We asked the governor-elect if he has any specific candidates in mind.
We have made no decisions around that, but we, as I said before, we set up a transition team so that we'll be soliciting names, looking at people, and rolling that out as we go forward in the next 61 days.
Evers says Speaker Vos and Senator Fitzgerald understand how important issues like health care, public schools, and road funding are. Fitzgerald has not yet spoken publicly about Evers' win, but plans to address members of the media tomorrow.
All right, Rose Schmidt in studio with us. Rose, thank you. Evers' running mate, Mandela Barnes, will become the first African-American lieutenant governor in state history. He's also the second black person elected to a statewide office in Wisconsin. Vel Phillips, the first black woman elected to a statewide position when she was voted to become Secretary of State. That was back in 1978. Barnes turns 32 next month. He's a former state representative from Milwaukee.
Governor Scott Walker is promising help in the transition to the Evers administration after conceding a hard-fought race. Chief political reporter Jessica Arp tells us how and why the governor decided against a recount.
Well, yeah, this race was simply not close enough to request one because of a law the governor signed not even a year ago, requiring the race to be within 1%. This one, just a few thousand votes outside that margin. Instead, Walker will be a 2-term governor, and his attention will shift to a transition and what may come next.
You guys are amazing.
A campaign event meant to celebrate Governor Scott Walker saw that marquee candidate never appear. Instead, his lieutenant governor at 1 a.m. saying the campaign may be facing a recount.
I am here this morning to tell you that the fight is not over.
That fight ended about 12 hours later as the governor issued a statement saying he'd conceded to Tony Evers by phone and that he'd offered Evers the, quote, full support of my staff and our cabinet as he begins the transition process. That came after the Walker team says they asked questions about what happened to 47,000 absentee ballots in the city of Milwaukee that were uncounted until early in the morning. Some 2,000 of them recreated because of glue from envelopes on the ballots. In a statement, the Walker team says they asked about those ballots and determined that, quote, any change in the result would not be significant enough to determine the outcome of the election despite its close margin and questions about how the city of Milwaukee executed its election night operation. Which means Walker, who spent Wednesday with his family and did no public events or interviews, will now shift his focus to a transition out of state government. It's unclear what Walker's plans may be next or who he or Evers will task with leading a transition between their administrations. Another major question hanging out there, though, a special session to vote on tax incentives for Kimberly Clark discussed to begin on Monday, and whether Republicans may try to add other issues to that slate for Governor Walker to handle as a lame duck governor before he leaves office.
Jessica, thank you.
Another gray day for us in southern Wisconsin. A little chilly out there. Here's Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti. Gary?
You're right, it is gray. It's chilly. It was also kind of breezy today. At least it was dry, but there is some snow on the way for Thursday night into Friday. We have added an alert day to the forecast for about an inch of snow accumulation across much of southern Wisconsin. Now, with temperatures in the mid-20s overnight, the snow should stick to the ground and could cause some slippery road surfaces. Visible cloud track shows just how thick the clouds were across the area. Wisconsin pretty much socked in. There was some sunshine farther to the south in southern Iowa and central Illinois, and some clearing across South Dakota that'll reach us later on tonight. Doppler track, though, shows very little in the way of precipitation, maybe a couple of flakes of snow here or there, but that was pretty much about it. Low temperatures this morning, 32 degrees here in Madison. To the north and west, temperatures around 30. The south and east just barely above freezing. High temperatures only went up a couple of degrees here in Madison. We topped out at 36, and now we're back to just above that low temperature for the day at 33. But you factor in the winds, and it feels like it's 25 degrees, so pretty chilly out there. By tomorrow morning, temperatures will be down into the lower to middle 20s. Look for partly sunny skies tomorrow with a few clouds late in the day. High temperature, though, still on the cold side at 38. That's your first alert forecast.
All right, Gary, thank you. Tammy Baldwin will be holding on to her seat in the United States Senate. That race, one of the first races called last night, as Senator Baldwin turned back the challenge from Republican State Senator Leah Vukmir. News 3 spoke with Senator Baldwin today as she reflected on the last few months and on working with other candidates on the top of the ticket in Wisconsin.
You know, there was a really incredible result in my race last night, and I'm so grateful for that. And it was also just an honor to jump on Tony Evers' school bus and just travel the state as a team, talking about the power of people's voice when they vote and making progress on things that really matter, you know, to families across this state.
Senator Baldwin hopes, with the House now in Democratic hands, that more can be done on a bipartisan basis. She plans to work on a farm bill and a health care bill in the coming year.
There will soon be a new attorney general in Wisconsin. Democratic candidate Josh Kaul has declared victory over Republican incumbent Brad Schimmel. Schimmel was running for his second term after serving as the Waukesha County District Attorney. During his victory speech this morning, Kaul says he will ensure DNA matches from the testing rape kits are fully investigated and will work with the legislature and governor to increase testing times at the state crime labs. He will also be serious about holding pharmaceutical companies accountable for their role in the opioid epidemic, and he will work with Governor-elect Tony Evers to withdraw from the lawsuit that is seeking to invalidate the Affordable Care Act.
When I take office, I will also work with Tony Evers to withdraw from the lawsuit that is seeking to invalidate the Affordable Care Act. No one in Wisconsin should be denied health insurance coverage because of a pre-existing condition. And protections for people with a pre-existing condition shouldn't be put at risk.
Kaul is a former federal prosecutor and the son of the late former Attorney General Peg Lautenschlager. Attorney General Brad Schimmel released a statement this morning saying it appears that Josh Kaul won, but he wants to wait until every vote is counted, and he will know more in about a week. He also vowed that his team will assist in making the transition as smooth as possible.
Many voters across the state said yes to their school districts last night, passing an overwhelming majority of referendums on their ballots. Our Keely Arthur takes a closer look at the districts in our area. Keely?
Well, many voters very supportive of school referendums, maybe more than ever before. At least 20 school districts in our area passed referendums everywhere from Montello to Oregon schools. And the most expensive referendum in the state passed right next door to us in the Middleton Cross Plains district. Voters there approved a pair of referendums totaling $143 million. It will pay for a new elementary school, facility upgrades to the high school, including a new music department, among other things. And as we said, lots of support across the state. 76 out of 82 referendum questions in Wisconsin passed, 4 failed, 2 are too close to call right now.
All right, Keely, thank you very much. Great job last night. Great job today as well. All our reporters, great team effort.
Turnout in Wisconsin's midterm election is the highest on record, reaching more than 57%. The hard-fought race for governor drove people to the polls yesterday, with the race for U.S. Senate close behind. Based on unofficial totals, nearly 2.7 million people cast ballots. That comes to just over 57% of the voting age population. Madison also set a new record for turnout at nearly 93% for pre-registered voters. Mayor Paul Soglin says the city typically sees about 75% for a midterm election. Still to come, a tragedy along the interstate this morning is leading to conversations about highway safety.
Law enforcement with some important reminders. Vehicles that break down in dangerous places. We'll tell you what they're telling us. That's next at 6. The Wisconsin Highway Patrol offering a safety warning for people after a deadly crash.
A man was hit by a semi as he was changing his tire along the interstate. Rock County reporter Adam Duxter shares what happened.
I'm standing along the stretch of highway where police say a man was struck by a semi-truck this morning while trying to change a flat tire on his car. Now the conversation is turning on how to stay safe in situations like this. Police say it was here, near mile marker 165 on Highway 3990, where an Illinois man was hit and killed around 4 a.m. this morning.
We know that a car became disabled and it stopped on the interstate, on the shoulder of the interstate. The driver was outside looking at the vehicle, we think, and somebody that was passing by struck him as he was outside of the vehicle.
Morehouse says his team is now trying to stress how important it is for drivers to practice safe decisions in situations like this.
The biggest thing is get as far away from traffic as you can. If there is a shoulder, pull as far to the right or left to get away from the lanes of traffic. Make sure all your lights are on your car, whether it's leaving your car running your headlights and taillights or, preferably your hazard lights.
But adds these precautions aren't limited to the drivers on the side of the road, but the ones on the road as well.
If you see something on the shoulder, give it as much room as you can. If you can go to the other lane, that's great. If you can't make it to the other lane because of traffic, at least slow down so you're not going past the the disabled vehicle at highway speed.
I also talked to the owner of Savior Towing, who says these things happen too often.
Hey, it's real close to home for me. I have a family I like to go home to, and when these type of situations happen, I always feel for the family because they're not going to get their loved one back. A lot of that is based off of the fact that people don't slow down and move over for anybody.
And has one piece of advice for anyone finding themselves in a bad situation.
The biggest thing is if anything ever really happens to somebody, anybody, it doesn't matter, call for help.
Now, Morehouse told me this accident will still have to be investigated, and it's too early to tell yet if charges will end up being filed. In Edgerton, Adam Duxter, WISC News 3.
Officers plan to recreate the scene as part of their investigation.
And that will allow them to see if the semi-driver veered off the road at any point.
Cold weather is expected for the rest of the week. We have an alert day in the forecast for Friday for some light snow, and it looks like the weather will stay relatively quiet after that. I'll have your first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
As we mentioned, a chilly one out there in gray skies. Gary Canalti now with the latest on the days ahead.
And don't expect that to change very much. We might see some sunshine from time to time, but temperatures are going to stay on the cold side. And we have an alert day in the forecast for Friday for some light snow that'll begin late Thursday night after midnight and run into Friday morning with some light snow showers or flurries continuing after that. But during that time period, there might be around an inch of snow accumulation through much of southern Wisconsin. Now today, things pretty quiet, maybe a flurry or two of snow in a couple of spots. There have been some snow showers downwind from Lake Superior. It's that time of year where the lake effect snows start to kick in. Live view from the Edgewater Sky Cam in downtown Madison. No snow here, but skies are cloudy. High today only 36 degrees. That's 13 degrees below the average high of 49. Low temperature of 32, right where it should be, but we're just above that now at 33 with cloudy skies. Winds out of the west-northwest at 9 miles per hour. Wind chills right now are in the mid to upper 20s. So look at the high temperature trend over the next 7 days. they will stay in the 30s when the average high temperature should be in the mid to upper 40s. A couple of these days there could be some flurries from the Sunday through Tuesday time period. Again, some light snow from Thursday night into Friday morning. 8 to 14-day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center calling for the below normal temperatures to start shifting eastward as we head into the third week of November. Above normal temperatures building out to the west, and there are signs that we should start turning warmer toward the end of the month. Below normal precipitation expected across much of the country, with the highest probabilities of that happening centered on Kentucky and also out toward Utah and Colorado. But much of the country expecting below normal precipitation with a quiet weather pattern in the 8 to 14-day outlook. Snow depth right now, some light snow on the ground in far northern Wisconsin, mainly less than an inch, but additional snowfall, at least according to the European computer model, about a half inch, anywhere from a trace to a half inch in southern Wisconsin. The U.S. GFS model, a little closer to an inch, and our local RPM model, which we use for much of the day-to-day forecasting, closer to an inch as well. So that's what we're kind of thinking, around an inch of snow accumulation from Thursday night into Friday morning. Temperatures are already cold, just barely above freezing here in the 20s to our north and to our west, and with this strong west to northwesterly wind flow bringing in cold air out of Canada, it's going to stay cold enough for any snow to stick to the ground once it does occur. So our forecast for tonight calls for cloudy skies this evening, then it'll turn partly cloudy and cold overnight with a low temperature of 23. Tomorrow's high only 38 degrees with partly sunny skies and a few clouds starting to move in late in the afternoon. Future track, you can see those clouds starting to clear out a bit overnight. Low temperatures dropping into the lower 20s. Highs tomorrow upper 30s, but here come the clouds late in the day. By late tomorrow night, you can see some light snow moving in, and then some snow showers and flurries on Friday. High temperatures getting up maybe into the mid 30s and then falling back late in the day. So much of the day will be below freezing. And again, those snowfall amounts probably right around an inch, at least according to our latest computer model forecast. 7 to 10-day forecast, those temperatures on the cold side into much of next week. Look for high temperatures only in the 30s, nighttime low temperatures in the 20s. Some flurry chances early next week, maybe a little bit of a warm up toward the end of the week.
Up next, we'll hear from Aaron Rodgers' newest vertical threat, and Ethan Happ gets into some rare air in the Badgers season opener. It's sports. You know you missed it last night. Wisconsin forward Ethan Happ picked a bad night to make history. It was last night against Coppin State. Heard there was an election or something going on. Badgers senior logged the second triple-double in program history, logging 10 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists in the season opener. Now, the points and the rebounds, not a surprise for number 22, but how about the 12 helpers? Demetric Trice coming back from a foot injury. Ended his season last year. Catch, shoot, splash. Had a game-high 21 points. And then Happ gets the rebound and the assist on one play here to Brevin Pritzel, who had 16 points on 4 of 7 shooting. Happ and his sharp-shooting teammates off to a 1-0 start.
It's nice to have Meach back. And, you know, Brad and Brev are always going to knock down shots. So we got a lot of shooters. And if you know, you could kind of tell that was their game plan, was just take me away. So that worked out well with having them knock down those shots early.
I can tip my hat off to Ethan for finding me so many times. Yeah, I appreciate it. But honestly, it's just the hard work that I've been putting in over the summer and over rehab and things like that. So it feels good to have it pay off.
Wisconsin quarterback Jack Cohn's hair were on fire. You wouldn't know it. He's the presumptive starter until Alex Hornibrook clears concussion protocol. There's no margin of error when the Badgers head to Penn State this weekend. Cohn, calm as always, says he's going to stay in the moment and do what the coaches say.
You know, I'd say I've tried to just mentally prepare, you know, going into places like Nebraska and Iowa, even when I wasn't playing, just trying to put myself in Alex's situation and stuff like that. But it's definitely going to be a tough environment to play. Just throw completions, that's the biggest thing. Just take what the defense gives you and you know, try to avoid negative plays.
The Packers announced they're activating receiver Trevor Davis from injured reserve. He's been out since week 2 with a hamstring injury. Aaron Rodgers considers more weapons a good thing, but Davis might have to wait for some balls. Rookie Marquez Valdez-Scantling's quickly becoming the Packers' deep threat, averaging more than 21 yards per catch. Valdez-Scantling doesn't lack in speed or confidence, and he says his edge comes from home.
Where I was raised, Southside St. Petersburg, Florida isn't the easiest, and there's a lot of great players down there, and that's just how I was raised. You know, they drafted me for a reason, you know, so I think I can be in this league for a long time.
His attitude in meetings, the way that he is locked in and he's trying to get better each day, he really goes about it like a pro.
Back in May, Aaron Rodgers said the Packers like young receivers and called Dez Bryant a, quote, talented player. Now we can call him a New Orleans Saints. Bryant, who just turned 30, was released by the Cowboys this offseason. Been looking for a squad ever since. The Saints 7-1, but thin at receiver. Bryant's had foot and knee issues, but New Orleans liked what they saw in his workout with the team. Well, I was back and forth between election coverage and ball night. Bucks falling apart. They dropped to 8-2 last night. 118-103 in Portland. Giannis had 23 points, 9 rebounds, but C.J. McCollum had 40. Tomorrow night, the Bucks get their biggest test of the season. They are at 10-1 Golden State. I had the cable go, and I had basketball, I had election stuff. My TV was going to blow up last night.
I was a little busy.
Yeah, you guys had stuff to do. Well, thank you. Good to see you guys. Good to see you all made it.
Quick final peek.
Chilly weather expected all the way through next week. Maybe some flurries early next week, too.
All right, Gary, thanks. Thanks for joining us for News Street 6.
Have a great evening. We'll see you back here at 10.